Illinois faces some big challenges. Today, you're about to hear a truly honest analysis of the problems we face. Equally important, you'll also hear an in-depth discussion of some practical solutions. This is your radio source for stories, the insight, and the answers you won't hear anywhere else, not in the media, and not coming from Springfield. You're listening to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project. Now, here's your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Welcome to another edition of Illinois Rising. I'm Dan Proft, co-host of Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, 5 to 9 a.m. weekdays, along with Amy Jacobson. And joining me on this edition is Pat Hughes, co-founder of the Illinois Opportunity Project. And Pat, another surrender Republican, Ronner Sucktoy, is removed from office. State Representative Nick Sauer, Republican from Lake Barrington, resigned this week after a story broke that he created a social media account using risque pictures of his ex-girlfriend to communicate with men about what they would like to do to her.
It's so bizarre, Dan. It's obviously it's like a revenge porn kind of thing. They apparently were broken up. This is all, of course, allegedly. But he resigned very quickly.
Well, she, the ex-girlfriend, filed a police report, Chicago Police Department, saying it's an active investigation. So you're right, that potentially criminal sanctions against Sauer, in addition to the political price he's paid if the allegations bear out. And it sure seems like they will. But what does this say about the state of the Republican Party in the Me Too movement? Ronner's answer to this. I mean, can this guy say anything other than Madigan? He was asked about Nick Sauer, and he said, what I know is that there are people around Mike Madigan who, I agreed. There are people in Madigan's inner circle that are creeps and scumbags and casualties of the Me Too movement, deservedly so. Okay. But we had Ron Sandak, who's a creep. Now we got this creepy kid, Nick Sauer, who's been bounced.
We had John Anthony.
John Anthony ran into problems, too. He sort of took the stairs instead of the windows that Sandak and Sauer were thrown out of. But, so this is a bipartisan problem in Springfield, as we know, because it was the Legislative Inspector General's office that sat vacant for 2.5 years, where you had both Republicans and Democrats sitting on the Legislative Ethics Commission, which appoints that position, in the House and Senate that could have said something, done something about all the bad actors that are now being unmasked. Lou Lang, Nick Sauer, the other names we mentioned, many more, I'm sure, to come.
Yeah, so what Ronner should have said is he should have just said, look, these types of things are not a partisan issue. There's bad actors in Springfield, and I'm here to make sure that these bad actors get cleaned up. I've asked for his resignation. He's given his resignation, and whether it's on the Republican side or the Democrat side, I'm going to root it out. That's what he should have said.
Yeah. Well, for more on this topic, we're joined by State Representative Jeanne Ives. Jeanne, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me on.
You've lost a colleague temporarily. Somebody will be appointed to take Nick Sauer's place, of course, so we'll see what comes out of Lake County this time. It's almost like the setup of a Ray Bradbury novel. But what's your reaction to this sort of controversy that ebbed and flowed very quickly?
I'm appalled. I'm appalled by Nick Sauer's actions, and then just the hypocrisy of him going through our entire own hashtag Me Too movement down there in Springfield, where it's been legislation, and he sat on the sexual harassment task force and took testimony from folks, all the while having this in his background, doing what he was already doing, and has the audacity to sit there and question people like me, who bring forward a bill to give complainants rights, and then he's got all this in his background. So good riddance, goodbye. And I thank God he was outed now, before we had something like akin to a Denny Hastert, moving up into the Republican structure. Which, listen, he's the golden boy. He was going to be groomed for leadership, make no doubt about it. So I'm glad that, his ex-girlfriend came forward, and but for her doing that, but for her having the courage we wouldn't know about this.
Jeanne, I'm of the belief that if these allegations are true, and like Dan said, they appear to be true because he resigned so quickly. If they weren't true, I think he would have stood up and said, no, these allegations are absolutely false. This is a circumstance where an ex is seeking revenge against me. I'm going to stand by what I've done. His quick capitulation tells me that there's something to this. I think that this type of behavior, if it's ever going to be stopped along the continuum, that somebody really, really needs to be punished. I know there's an investigation. I think if it's true, he should go to prison. What's your view of sort of the punishment fitting a crime in this circumstance and all the other circumstances you're dealing with down in Springfield with these types of things?
This is horrific. What Sauer did is it's unbelievable that anybody would do that. And for his ex-girlfriend to come forward, because listen, she obviously provided the photos. So sometimes victims think, well, I gave him this information. I shouldn't have done that. But for her to come forward and say, no, you don't share this. You don't put it out. You don't lure other men into doing this. This has got to be a crime. I'm not a lawyer, but if this isn't a crime, then what is under this new statute on revenge porn and posting photos of folks when they don't know about it? So I hope he gets the full brunt of the enforcement, and I hope folks like him never come into public office. I'd prefer if he would, step away from the entire Republican Party. I don't know, has he resigned as chairman of Cuba Township? I hope he's resigned from that as well.
I don't know.
But yeah, no, you're right. People have to be punished for this. But the legislative inspector general is not going to do the job. It's going to have to come through the criminal courts because it's still a fairly ineffective position, in my opinion.
Why
There's
is
a lot
that?
of reforms still to be done.
Why is that?
Well, because it's not independent to begin with. And we only have an interim legislative inspector general. They still can't get their act together and find a permanent one who's truly independent. And also, even if she investigates, when she sends something to a legislative ethics commission where the final adjudication happens, that's all made up of that legislator's colleagues. Well, that's not independent. And on top of it, the complainants, when they make a complaint, have no rights to know anything about the process. So the only way that Ms. Kelly's going to get released is through the criminal justice system, not through the legislative inspector general.
The current legislative inspector general was an attorney named Julie Porter. So her status, as I understand it, is she's contracted through the end of this calendar year. And so that's the timeline in which the General Assembly has to operate to to find a permanent person for that post.
That's correct. But she's still operating under the auspices of a legislative ethics commission that is made up of other legislators. So, and she's got I think 17 cases pending. These take time apparently, but it's just her. So there's no quick adjudication of this stuff either on top of it. And there's no information given to anybody about what's going on, including the complainant. That's the problem here.
Jeanne,
So
I feel, Jeanne,
yeah.
I'm sorry, Jeanne. I feel as if there's these sort of spikes in these events, and then there's an immediate coverage, and people like you really advocate for the victims, and we want justice here, and then it dissipates, right? It dissipates and it goes away, and like you said, it takes time for things to be adjudicated. What can we do? What can you do? What can other legislators do to make sure that people are set to account for these things on a daily basis, so it doesn't, for example, get buried until the election's over or until a time that's convenient for the people that are in power?
Well, that's a big question. What can we do? First of all, if we actually see any sort of sexual harassment or abuse or know of it, then we need to speak up about it immediately, whether it's on behalf of ourselves or others in our chain of command or people that we are affiliated with. Maybe our staff or something comes to us. We can't put up for it. So you have a culture problem in Springfield. So you got to change out your leadership, just for the most part. You need new leaders down there. You need new legislators down there that have allowed this to go on. So if Madigan should be gone. Leaving that position open for 3 years, he should be gone. But so should the Republicans who also didn't appoint it. And those legislative ethics commission folks who sit on that commission and just allow that vacancy to sit there for all those years, they should actually be, their names should be said. And people should understand that they're not doing their job. So until we highlight this from a leadership standpoint and just have zero tolerance on it, I don't know what else you do. Because, you can put in the strongest ethics laws, but if you don't elect ethical people, you're not going to get change. And all of this, we're mandating sexual harassment training. Really? I mean, Nick Sauer was 35 years old. The fact that he needed sexual harassment training at his age,
right?
It's just
you need training to know that you're not
anything.
supposed to post a fake account of your ex-girlfriend used photos of her to fish other guys. I need some instruction on that.
Is there a manual that I can look at?
I got to plead ignorance on this one.
So then they got to the point in the training to actually delineate, this is sexual harassment, and this act is sexual harassment. If you do that, that's sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Really?
Maybe Lou Lang,
list.
maybe Lou Lang and Nick Sauer can do some play acting at the next sexual harassment training session to explain it to the other legislators. She is State Representative Jeanne Ives, Republican from Wheaton. Jeanne, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.